9 to 5ers. I am Elizabeth Ajadi, career coach, consultant, and the voice in your ear cheering you on as you take on career, life, and everything in between. Welcome to 9 to 5 and Everything in Between, the podcast. The aim of this podcast is to bring you a fresh perspective on balancing a fulfilling career with your passions and aspirations. Today, we'll be talking about blueprints and beginnings. Before we dive into blueprints and beginnings, I wanted to talk about the 9 to 5 blueprint. The 9 to 5 blueprint started as my online diary where I shared my learnings as a young professional and used it to advise other young professionals to take charge of their own career and be the architect of their own journey. But like a good friend of mine says, you learn twice when you teach. And so for me, it was a way for me to learn new things as I was researching and learning things. I was sharing them with my audience. And the audience has since grown since 2020 till now. We have following on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Facebook as well. And it's been such an incredible journey to see something that started as my online diary, sharing my learnings, to something that became a coaching service for me. I've taken on clients, I've coached clients on preparing their resume, on preparing for an interview. Um, I've just coached clients generally on embracing change and being able to pivot their careers. And it's been such a rewarding experience for me to be able to do that. And 9 to 5 and everything in between is really an extension of that. And it's not just me. I plan on bringing in guests who are subject matter experts in their field to explore and discuss a fresh perspective on various topics that we'll be bringing to the audience. Now, let's dive into who Elizabeth Ajadi is. If you're new to the platform, welcome. So happy to have you on board. If you've been a follower for the last 4 years, thank you so much for coming on this next chapter with us. Really appreciate having you and your support in all the endeavors that I've been pursuing. A little bit about me. I'm Nigerian and I live in the United States of America. I relocated here with my siblings in 2013, but before then, I had such a fulfilling life in Nigeria with my family. And a lot of my perspective, a lot of my approach to life comes from my upbringing and just being in such a amazing community and in a very diverse country like Nigeria is. So many times I tell people that I think I'm very resilient and adaptable because of just being around people of different tribes, different cultures, different languages since I was born. And so it gives me a whole different perspective on approaching people. I never really see other people as different. I see them as human beings similar to me as well. So I think it definitely, being Nigerian, has shaped my perspective and approach to life and people, generally speaking. When I moved here to the US in 2013, I enrolled in promotional communication, in a BSc in promotional communication at Cleveland State University. Prior to that, in Nigeria, I was already in university in my second year. I was just about to begin my third year when we relocated. And so I just continued on. I was studying mass communication at Bowen University in Iwo, Nigeria, and I transferred my credits to Cleveland State and continued on the same path. I think when I was in Nigeria, my thought process was I was going to study broadcasting because I like speaking, I like sharing, and I like bringing information and news to people. And so I thought I would pursue a career in broadcasting, but when I pivoted to the US, it was different for me because I realized, well, broadcasting, media writing is completely different in the United States. The humor is different, and just the approach to life is completely different. The expectation is different. And so I wasn't sure it was a career that I wanted to pursue anymore, but I stuck to it because I figured oh, I can still make something out of it. I don't have to be a broadcaster. And so I picked promotional communication, which was more focused on marketing and PR, public relations. And I enjoyed it. But one challenge I had was I still could not write for the American audience because I was still thinking very much like a Nigerian. So this was very challenging for me. A pivotal moment for me in the course of my undergrad was when I moved to South Korea in 2015 to study abroad. I think that changed everything around for me. I went there. I was there for a semester, 4 months, and honestly, 4 months feels like a very short time, but for me, it was like a whole lifetime. The program at Chonghang University was very robust, and it allowed me to dive not just into my campus life, but into the Korean culture. And I took classes on Korean drama, Korean music, arts, culture, Korean economics, and I learned so much about how um, Korea, after the war between them and North Korea, how they were able to rebuild the country from zero, from ground zero, really, to what it is now. And if you don't know South Korea, Samsung, LG, Kia are just some of the, not Kia, sorry, Hyundai, are just some of the biggest products that have come out of that amazing country. I had such a rewarding time there. I met friends who have now become lifelong friends, who we keep in touch. We travel together and see each other, and it's just such an amazing. It was such a transformative chapter of my life, really. And when I look back on it, I'm so grateful that I took the plunge because at the time I'd only lived in the US for 2 years, and here I was trying to move all the way to the other side of the world by myself. But I'm glad I did. And so I encourage young professionals, like, if you see an opportunity, take it, go for it. Don't hold back. Like, now is the time for you to really explore different aspects and different facets of your life, and it definitely would add more to you. Fun fact about that, I still watch K drama till date. Like, I'm literally obsessed, and I used to be obsessed even before I went, and it just became more multi. I just became so much more into K drama, K pop, and all of that. After I lived there, so very much into the language and the culture. So coming back to the US in 2015, oh, let me pause. Prior to even my return, in that same year, went to Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, for an internship. I had an uncle who lived there, and we were chatting, and I told him, yeah, I was in South Korea and I was hoping to intern, and he was able to pass my resume on to a recruiter over there, and they hooked me up with a marketing internship with a fashion merchandising company. And this was completely different, but it was a different aspect of marketing that I anticipated. We did a lot of competitive analysis to evaluate our campaigns, to design campaigns and in store campaigns, online campaigns. And I got to go to different malls, different stores, explore what other brands were doing with their in store campaigns, in store design, in store layout, to then inform my recommendation to my marketing manager at the time on how we should design a new campaign for a new mall launch that we were working on. And that internship lasted 2 months. It was such an amazing experience for me. Like, when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, I can't even believe I did that. And I don't even remember how my uncle and I started that conversation of me coming to intern in Dubai, and but I'm glad I did. And then I came back to the US, and it was like, oh gosh, it was the start of my third year in college, and I was just heads down from that moment. I literally just plunged right in. I was taking more of my advanced media classes, advanced communication classes. And I also, at that point, added a minor in management and business management. And so I was really diving into a lot of things. Um, didn't have much time on my hands because I also picked up a role as the president of the African Student Association, planning events, just like getting the association set up, planning campaigns, doing a whole lot of stuff. And I still had an on campus job as well. Like, I don't even know how I balanced that time period of my life, really. But I think it comes from always like keeping busy. I've always kept busy, to be honest. Like, I don't know how to sit still. I don't know how to not be busy. That's the problem, you know. But I still manage to figure out how to balance it, how to prioritize what's important, and just be intentional about what I give my time to. And so, fast forward to 2 years later, before I graduated, I think it was the start of my fourth year, I started an internship at a health insurance company as a marketing intern, but more as a program assistant, really, because it was a co op and I was more or less a part time employee at the time. And I held that role for a year and a half throughout my fourth year. Um, Still worked my on campus job, but like cut back on my hours. I don't even know how I balanced that last year of college, really, but um, it was such an amazing experience now at that time to be able to start working. I was now fully into the corporate world. It initially was just like, oh, intern for 2 months, but I was working for a full year and a half, and I got my first taste of corporate life, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. My manager at the time, shout out to her, was just an amazing person. I think having her as my manager, the first manager that I had, was a great starting experience into corporate, because if it was somebody else, I don't know that I would have lasted very long. And so I'm privileged that I had a great manager starting out in my career. Held that role for a year and a half, like I said, graduated, and then started a full time first role as a risk adjustment specialist. I didn't last very long at that one. And it was while I was in that role that I realized, okay, now I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. Like, I wasn't necessarily enjoying the role that I was in, it was very much audit focused. But at the same time, I knew that I needed to do something worthwhile. And then I sat down and thought to myself, what about my career in marketing and communications that I enjoy? It was the storytelling. And then what was I missing? Because when I started job hunting, I realized I was disadvantaged in that a lot of people who focused on studying marketing, the niche was different in that they studied marketing analytics. At the time, Google Analytics, AdWords, all of these things had become really, really big. Search engine optimization, a lot of which were not included in my coursework in promotional communication. And so I was disadvantaged compared to my colleagues that were graduating at the time. And so when I looked back, I thought, okay, I think I want to study analytics. I want to understand data analytics because I was missing it. And then at my job at the time, they had just rolled out SAS, ProcSQL, and I was intrigued. And so I decided to go back to school for my MBA, but with a focus in business analytics. And this would end up being like very pivotal for my career as I have it now, as I've known it in the last 5 years. Because studying that program, I got exposed to data analytics, not just in uh, programming, but in data storytelling, trend analysis, and um, making accurate factual recommendations with data. And at the same time, I pivot into the analytics department at my um, same organization, the health insurance company, Medical Mutual. And this was very, very helpful for my career because I was seeing what I was studying in school in real life. So while I did not start as a data analyst, I started as a project coordinator. I was managing the analysts, managing their project, managing the code, making sure that we saved code properly and kept a record of it. And I was learning on the job as well. So, shout out to my managers at the time. It was very helpful because they gave me opportunities to grow, to thrive, and learn from my colleagues, and also trial by fire basically. And eventually I got promoted into a consulting analyst role, um, and started to also do my own dashboards, write my own code, and then go present to clients. And again, remember how I said data storytelling? Storytelling is something that I'm deeply passionate about. And so I was able to tell the story that was in the data to clients. We had to do these annual presentations to the top clients to show them what their population's health was looking like, and then provide recommendations with the help of their sales account executives on different plan designs. So if you if you have a health insurance coverage with your employer, chances are they're looking at the overall population's health to determine what benefits plans that they should design for the upcoming year. So they're looking to see, okay, do we have a lot of sick people in our population? And just to be clear, they're not honing in on one individual. We're looking at the trend of the entire population, because that's what informs the premiums that they pay. That's what informs um, the benefits that they design. Do they want to have a chronic condition management plan for the or offer it for you? Do they have people with back or spinal pain? Do they want to add a program to help you manage it so that it doesn't uh, worsen, which ends up becoming more expensive? Because if you know healthcare in the US, you know healthcare is very expensive. So cost and utilization is a very hot topic in the healthcare world. And so that was what my work was centered around: presenting to clients, showing them what the data was telling, providing recommendations for their plan designs. And I had that role for about 2.5 years before I graduated. And so upon graduation, I was trying to figure out what's my next move. At the time, I realized, okay, well, I enjoy data storytelling, right? But I did not necessarily enjoy the coding, the writing, the sitting down to code, the sitting down to write code, understand code, analyze code, like troubleshooting code. Like, it wasn't my cup of tea at all. But I enjoyed the coding, the dashboarding, still love dashboarding, love Tableau, love Power BI. And I still use Power BI at my current job, and I love it. I just love visualization. Again, storytelling, visualization, that creative aspect of me. I tend to just lean on all of those things. And so I started looking for another role, knowing that I didn't want to be in data. I didn't want to be in and I didn't want to be in analytics per se. And I realized, okay, I want to be in business operations, because at the time I took a training in Six Sigma and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I worked on projects at my company as well. So this was also something else I picked up. Became Green Belt certified and started working on projects to improve processes. And I enjoy that aspect. And if you're exposed to continuous improvement or Six Sigma, you know that in order to improve processes, you're gathering data, you're gathering information to really inform what changes you need to make, how you can optimize the change. And so ever since then, I've been so in love with operational efficiency. How can I make things better? How can I make things work better? How can I help people work better? How can I streamline things for people? And so, in the last 3.5 years, my life has definitely been very in depth into continuous improvement, process improvement, and process optimization, and what have you. And so I've dubbed myself an operational efficiency champion, because I just love it. I like seeing the results of making things easier, giving people the steps, spoon feeding people really on how to do things. I thrive there. Again, I thrive where I can share, where I can teach, because I'm learning at the same time. Circling back to, looking for a job and then trying to figure out what my next move was, I got outreached by a recruiter on LinkedIn for this new exciting role at this real estate organization. I think they withheld the name at the time, and we had a conversation and eventually realized, oh, it's Brookfield Properties, and they were looking for a manager of operational excellence. everything was right up my alley. I knew data, I know process, I'm Six Sigma trained, passionate about efficiency, passionate about business operations optimization. And so I landed the role and started, found myself working in the real estate industry for the last 3.5 years now. And if you asked me maybe 5 years ago if I would work in real estate, I probably would say no or yeah, but it wasn't. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't thinking about it. But has it been the best decision of my life? Absolutely. I absolutely. I'm glad that I made that pivot because healthcare, while I'm passionate about it, I realize, oh my God, being in real estate, commercial real estate specifically. So just so you know, I'm not a realtor, so don't come to me about buying or selling a house. I can give you in a industry outlook or give you my take on the industry on what I see is going holistically. But if you're looking to buy a house and asking me about interest rates, I know nothing about it, but I know realtors that I can refer you to. So because I often get confused for being a realtor if I when people find out I'm in real estate. Here's what I found exciting about the real estate industry. I started working in commercial real estate and I had to work on the full life cycle of a development, you know, from finding land, master planning, and then our developers find the land, the underwriting checks out, and it's purchased. We start to vision and design and try to think about what do we want to make of this land. What's this community like? You're doing deep dives into what do we want to do, what should we design here, what's most appropriate for the community, what are we getting funding for. So I was uh, very exposed and I was very involved in master planning for our master plan communities, not as a subject matter expert, but as the facilitator of those conversations. And so I planned the conversations, I planned the meetings, I planned the workshops with my manager, of course, and then facilitated the sessions to help the team and then created tools that we use to be able to facilitate those conversations, but also throughout the life cycle of the development from design. We had design standards that we use to guide things. Again, process optimization. Like we're going to build 3,000 homes. Why are we constantly designing and redesigning when we can have like a library of products, different products that we can pick up and use over and over again? And, we started to think about how we could optimize our processes around design because when you think about a commercial design, it takes what up to 3 years, even from the time you break ground to the time you launch and start leasing. From designing to building to lease up, like it's a long process. And so you're thinking about how can I optimize aspects of this to make it easier for decision making? Should we have standards 9 foot? Um, 9 foot ceilings or 10 foot ceilings, however high we want to make it. Um, how tall should our doors be? What's the standard height or width of doors that we should have? Which makes it easier for us to purchase and place orders for doors and things like that. For just tools that we're going to use for our buildings. And so I was very involved in that aspect of things, working with procurement, working with development, working with construction, working with finance, and working with various teams across the organization. So I'm so happy that I made that pivot because that role exposed me to several aspects of the real estate industry. And I tell people that I was very fortunate to have the front row seat because not a lot of my colleagues would say they had the front row seat in the industry because if they're focused in say finance, their world is finance, they live breathe finance. But because I was process optimization, I was exposed to everybody and everything. And, it was a very privileged position, one which I don't take for granted. And I'm so grateful to my manager because she gave me a lot of opportunities to shine. And she definitely put me in rooms that allowed me to shine greatly. So, now currently my role is director of legal operations. And, while I never thought of myself as working with legal or with the law as well at all. I never imagined it. However, it's been very, very insightful being exposed to this side of the world. In January, I made the move from our development group to the property management group and work in the legal department. And my role has been focused on the business side of the law, not the practice of law. So I help the team and make sure that the department is running efficiently and smoothly and manage budget, oversee compliance, audit related items, oversee our billing matter management system as the system administrator, review our budget, legal budget, and just balancing and I think the biggest one is managing our outside counsel relationship across the portfolio. So it's been very interesting coming into this role again, adapting and really pivoting and figuring out what's the best move for me. But overall, one lesson that I want to pass along here is that in all the roles that I've held, I've been able to bring my transferable skills with me. So nothing that I've ever learned, nothing that I've ever, no role that I've ever been in has been a waste. It's all being useful. It's all been stepping stones to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And I've learned a great deal about just rolling with the punches, seeing what it's going to take me. I'm asked to take on a project. I'm like, sure, why not? I get excited because, I never know what I would learn. I never know what new thing is around the corner for me. And so I encourage young professionals to take the plunge, go for it. And this is not to say you shouldn't say no if it doesn't align. Make sure it aligns with you, it aligns with your goals, it aligns with what you want for your career instead of just saying yes, yes, yes to everything. So be intentional about what you say yes to. Now I'm going to pivot to 9 to 5 and everything in between. A lot of what I will be bringing to this podcast is centered around my learnings as a young professional. I've been working in corporate America for 8 years now. And if I combine my external uh, experience doing internship in Dubai, that could maybe add up to 9 plus all the internships that I held up here. But, I've been working, full time for almost 9 years now. And I've definitely learned a ton and I've grown a great deal. And so with 9 to 5 Blueprint, I definitely want to be able to create something that talks about thriving in corporate America, but not just that, balancing everything else that you are involved with. For me, the 9 to 5 Blueprint is something that I'm deeply passionate about. It's an endeavor that I've invested a ton in. I have an employee who manages a lot of the behind the scenes in getting things sorted, in editing videos like this, in editing the podcast, in managing the social media. And she keeps me honest, she keeps me accountable, and keeping the ball rolling for the 9 to 5 Blueprint. And outside of that, I have personal interests. I love to travel. I practice aerial. And those are things that I'm deeply passionate about. I'm very active in my local church. I've been in the choir for the last 11 years that I've been in the US. And I can't believe when I say that it's been 11 years, but I've been deeply involved in, the praise team. I'm also director of social media for my church as well and just manage website design. And I don't design it. I manage the team and manage the project, manage the social media team and all of that. And so I'm wearing a lot of hats in my life. And I think about how do I even manage to balance everything when people ask me like, "Oh gosh, how do you do it all?" I'm like, "Oh, I just prioritize what's important every day. Every day I wake up and I think, what should I work on today? What's important? What am I working on?" Obviously there's my 9 to 5, which is pretty standard, and I'm grateful that my work allows me to balance all of these things. But what happens after my 9 to 5 is my 5 to 9, and that's the 9 to 5 Blueprint and everything else that's in between. And so I'm bringing this podcast to help you balance it all and help you understand your why. Let's figure out your why together. Let's figure out your passions. Let's figure out your aspirations. Let's figure out what your purpose is. I aim to live a purpose driven life. And you know what? One thing that one thing about me is even if I pick up something today, I enjoy it today and I'm doing it. If it's no longer serving its purpose, do you know what I do? I offload. I offload. I offload. Yep, that's what I do. I resign from things. I ask to step out. I ask to step away. I ask to take a break. I find a way to balance it all. If I find it's no longer serving its purpose, I'm no longer feeling enriched by it. I no longer am able to give my all to it. I step away. I take a break. And so I want to help you figure out how to balance it all, how to manage it all. I hope that through 9 to 5 and everything in between, and through the guests that I'll be having on, that you will be able to learn from a lot of amazing people that will be on here. That's a little bit on Blueprints and Beginnings. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and you can watch the visual recording on YouTube at the 9 to 5 Blueprint. You can find the information on all of our social media at the 9 to 5 Blueprint. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and follow our website, www.the9to5blueprint.com, for more information on future episodes and what the 9 to 5 Blueprint is about. Till next time, don't forget you're the architect of your journey. So own it, own the moment. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you on the next episode.